before we get into the ways you've gone about personalization, I think one of the things which becomes very important to understand, Monica, is the need to personalize, right? So in your case, when did you kind of realize that this is one aspect that you need to kind of like look into? What are the factors which played a role for in your current organization or in your previous organizations, which made you realize that this is the right time to now focus on personalization as an aspect of your communication or your product in itself?
Right. No, I think the very fact that we are an edtech company, right? The biggest advantage of edtech, if you see today, is the capability to personalize learning, right? So whether, most parents, when they send their children to school, their expectation is that the teacher gives personalized attention to their kids, right? That's something practically is not possible. Now with edtech, that is something that is a key differentiator. And so personalization was not something that came after we kind of conceptualized the product. We knew that it has to go hand in hand right from the start. But especially talking about the age group that we have, we have our audience, which is 4 to 8. An important thing to note here is that these kids don't seek learning. You ask a 4-year child, they won't say, I want to learn. These are the kids where you think that once you engage them, learning can happen as a consequence of that. Now, how do you engage kids of this age? Unless until you fine tune, the content surfacing or whatever content, whether it's rhymes or stories or etc. Unless until you fine tune that to the audience, right? You won't get that engagement from those kids. And if you don't get those engagement, learning will not happen. So our ultimate idea was to increase engagement, for which we had to do personalization. So that was the thought about it.
So, I mean, I think a valuable takeaway there is that there's no fixed time when you really look at it. It's essentially a part of the product in itself and has to be probably looked upon from the very scratch in itself, especially say for edtech as a category. And I think I'm in complete agreement there. One of the other aspect that we need to understand here is say, personalization. When you talk about personalization, most of the times we look at a few examples that probably come to our mind. So we would like to hear more on the kind of things that you've done and if there's any approach that you've taken. So one is examples, right? But if there's any like a thumb rule that you've followed or any fixed approach that you've probably taken which has helped you guys as a business, so that will be very, very helpful if you can share something like that.
So we have focused on two main pillars. One is engagement and the other is learning outcome. Learning outcome is essential. I mean, you can be engaged to a certain extent, but if you're not learning something out of it, then it's pointless, right? And to do so, we focus on our main pillars to generate love for learning. How do you generate love for learning? Because that is something that if at this age kids develop, a sense of love for learning, it goes on throughout their lives. So, we focus on establishing that fundamental. Now, how do we solve that? How do we create that love? Again, I'll quote some examples. Now, the kids that, belong to 4 to 8 years old, you will see that, especially in India itself, you will see a diverse type of learners. There'll be learners who love listening to rhymes at, 4 or 5 years of age. There'll be learners who love listening to stories. There are people who love, playing games, quizzes or games, interaction. There are learners who would like plain videos, right, for concepts. Now, the system that we have, it identifies what is the media format that the child likes. Again, data, through the user interaction, user behavior, user heuristic. It kind of understands what the user likes, the media format that the child prefers, and surfaces more of that content to the child. Now, that helps to build that level of engagement, right? As a result of which the same concept, let's take a concept, say number sense, right? Now the same concept is surfaced in a different media format to different children, right? Based on their preferences. And the preference is not something that they outwardly tell us. It's something that the system detects based on the behavior. So a child who likes rhymes will be shown content of number sense mostly on rhymes as far as it's possible.
Got
right?
It.
And similarly for stories. So that's how we do.
Got it. So, I mean, if I have to also put it another way, is that so if you're creating segments when you're trying to engage with people, probably your segmentation is happening basis the kind of content type that a kid or a user in your case essentially prefers or likes, right? So you're doing your segmentation basis and then based for that segment, you're trying to personalize that very
in a
content.
different way. We make sure that the segment is representative of all the user base. That's very important. We don't leave any user behind. So that is the beauty.
Like, I mean, when you say that, you would not want to miss out on any user.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
can you elaborate on how you do that, or what you exactly mean by that?
No, so we have basically, what I mean to say is we have a content type preference that
Yeah,
we gather from these kids based on the data for every type of user.
got it.
So, rather than making a cohort based on, our own ideas, we believe in data. So obviously every user can be tagged to a cohort. And then based on that, there are some media types that we also continuously innovate,
Okay.
right? Like for example, stories is a concept that we found out that people love, say science. For example, science cannot be really taught through rhymes, right?
Yeah,
So science is best learned through science stories. So this is something that the user data, them us gives us that kind of information. So but what we make sure is that there is a relevant content for every type of kid. That has been our major goal.
got it. Got it. I think this is
Also,
like,
I want to add something. So apart from that example, there is also a sort of personalization, in fact, in making the learning a little adaptive. Now what happens is when you have a class of 45 students, the pace of the class is standard, right? It doesn't wait for a child who is unable to grasp the concept, right? So every child follows the pace of the teacher, literally, right?
correct. Yeah.
Whereas in our app, we make sure that if you've not understood or grasped the essence of that concept, we do not surface the next higher concept to you.
Got it.
So we make sure that you study at your own pace. We respect that every type of kid has a different pace, and we surface content based on the current level that the child is. Again, not something that the user provides an input, but again through the data and the evaluation and the proficiency scores that the child gets while doing each of those content, while consuming each of the content, we then surface the relevant content. So we make sure that the child is learning at their own pace.
Got it. I think that would have been helpful for a kid like me for sure. I think, in terms of the effort, I can definitely see there's a lot of, effort that's getting into the kind of segments that we are looking at. And it's not just driven by, say, one aspect, which is the kind of content that's being liked by a user or preferred by a user. It's also to do with the pace of the user. And I think, I'm sure there are other aspects as well,
Yeah,
but
yes.
like in terms of the impact that you've seen, based on the efforts that you've highlighted so far, can you probably at a broader level give us some insights on which are the business metrics that has probably been affected by it, improved by it, and obviously if you're putting in so much effort in it, I'm sure that has created an impact for you guys, right? So can you probably put some light on that as well?
Sure. So we can't share any specific numbers, but we have witnessed massive improvement in engagement rates because we're giving the child what they love, right? So engagement rates have shot up. The fact that app understands their child's unique learning pattern has also excited parents a lot, because now the parent knows that their child will learn at their own pace. It's produced great results. Another thing is, even when we report the progress of the child, right, we do it in a very personalized way. We highlight what the child's strengths are, what the child has recently done, where the child could actually improve a bit, again in a very positive tone because the age group is that. At the same time, we also do these cute little personalizations with respect to sort of giving a shout out from their favorite characters in the progress report card. That works wonders because one, the child is excited because their favorite characters are giving a shout out to them. Two, the parent also believes that hey, this is something that is totally fine tuned to my child, and that brings the loyalty. So that's another aspect that we have looked at. Yeah.
Got it. So I think a lot of the things that you highlighted, one is I can probably divide it in two parts. One is, say, for a child, it increases the love for the platform, the kind of content that they're consuming, the kind of experience that they're. I think it's becoming more and more, I would say, likable for them to be on the platform and learn. And for a parent to see that experience probably is helping you guys, retain or make them loyal, because loyalty here will depend a lot on the parent as well, right? I'm
Yes,
assuming.
absolutely. Yeah.
So you're saying that essentially the experience for a kid is helping, probably help retain the parents for a longer duration and build like a loyal consumer base out of them. Get it? So I think this is very helpful indeed. And I think also one aspect which I want to understand is to do with the major challenges that you have faced here, right? So I think when we talk about personalization, every industry, every marketer, every product guy would want to focus on it, and I think most of the organizations are doing that. But like, what are the challenges also that you think come up when you think of it, when you're in the next stages of going about what should be the next steps from our side? What are the primary challenges that you've faced when you really look at personalizing the content for your users?
Sure. So India being India, I think we are flooded with massive amount of data, right? So massive data for a country like India, where you have so many different kinds of learning patterns, depending on the geographical differences, dialects, right? So you have a lot of data. So again, the way we treat the data, the quality of data is paramount to develop the right personalization, right? The advantage with Byju's is we already have millions of students in our program, so we can use the anonymized progress data to sharpen our, personalization. But in a nutshell, if I have to say, how do you overcome these challenges? First is improve the quality of data, right? And the second thing is continuously measure the impact of personalization. If we don't do that, then we are just static, right? And believe me, the data changes on a monthly basis. The preferences change on a monthly basis. We have a lot of characters, right? Interesting characters. Some of these characters likeliness or likelihood depends on the recent trends, right? Say a movie would have come out, or a good character might just have been promoted a lot recently. So even that preferences of kids also keep changing, right? And they also change with age as they kind of mature from ages 4 to 5. So we have to continuously measure the effectiveness of personalization and also improve it, right? Third challenge, the reason why I say challenge is that I've seen many times a lot of people focus on one type of data, quantitative or qualitative, to personalize experience. The right fit of both quantitative and qualitative, and you have to identify what the mix is. That's a big challenge. You cannot say that, hey, 80% of it is data and then 20% is qualitative data. That mix differs from different industry, differs from one company to the other. So hitting that right balance is a challenge, but once done right, it's going to produce the best results.
Got it. And any suggestions on like how to go about that? So say, I think there are 2-3 challenges that I can very well relate to in terms of, say, first of all, getting a lot of data, because say Byju's being Byju's, you guys have a lot of data. But maybe for younger organizations, that'll be a challenge, right? So any suggestions on, one, getting data? The second thing that you highlighted, say, how do you decide the right mix? Because that can also really depend on the business itself, but any metric, any way of solving that for our audience today?
Yeah, I think closely linking with the impact. I think we are a strong believer in experimentation, right? You start with a certain mix, look at the impact, doesn't work, change the mix, right? And of course, if you don't have enough data to start with qualitative data. But make sure that you don't take big decisions just based on qualitative data. Whatever little quant data it is, use it to critically evaluate the qualitative data. So, there's something called play testing that we do. I mean, in simple terms, when you say qualitative data, you don't have to really reach out to an agency to do some primaries. You can do that, definitely. But a simple thing is you're building products for kids, right? Get some kids, and these days it has to be remote. Try to observe their body language when you present a certain prototype to them, right? Try to look at the softer aspects also. Then triage that with whatever data that you have in terms of engagement. Together, try to then make the change, experiment out, measure the impact. If it's in line with your hypothesis, great. If not, make changes. So that's what we continuously follow.
Got it. So, I mean, one is to start in itself, be both qualitative and quantitative. And I think the second aspect that you highlighted multiple times is the fact that we need to again and again go back to the
Yes.
Testing ground and see what's working, what's not working.
Yes.
Maybe we start with a smaller data set, higher qualitative data and less quantitative, and then slowly evolve to improve the personalization that we do basis that. I think this is really helpful. Another question that in fact I had in my mind is, I think again coming from the same thought that everybody is trying to do it, right?
Yeah.
But still we see a lot of difference in a few brands doing it really well and still a few brands lagging behind, right? So what do you think is missing? I mean, I think a few of the things probably, especially in the product community, people would know, like they would know that we need to test, but still there must be something which is going wrong when we talk about brands probably not getting it right sometimes. So any nudges, any inputs from your side in terms of what is it that a few of the brands are missing, any inputs on that from your side?
um, I think, like I mentioned, one is the right mix of data, qualitative and quantitative, finding that right balance. Two is cohorting correctly, right? You would start with building, personas and trying to make sure that the coverage of cohorts is good enough. More importantly, understanding what data is useful and what is trash. That is very important.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what I feel and what we see is that there is a big challenge in finding out those data points that the user intends to share with you for personalization. There are a lot of data that the user might not have intentionally sent to you. I'm not talking about personal data, but it's just those user behavior data that needs to be viewed in completeness and not just constitute as something which might lead to a personalization effort. That's when it becomes a little I would say annoying for the customer when I don't think I gave that hint that I like this, but you keep showing me. That's where it goes wrong. So yeah, and I think most importantly, respect user privacy. I think we are a strong believer of that. So make sure that you don't use any data that you don't have the consent for. That's another annoying. So yeah, the thin line between privacy, thin line between personalization and getting something which is irritating or not required is definitely there, and companies need to strike balance on that.
Or any personal experience on that front? I mean, you would want to share where you felt that, oh, this is way too much personalization. It's becoming stockish to a level.
Not really. I think if you look at a lot of these companies that these newer companies that kind of take your data, you might just have explored a certain point or a certain thing, and then you start getting recommendations out of that, and that seems a little annoying, and it's a result of a bad data mining and a very bad categorizing or putting that data in a feature set that doesn't deserve to be there. But yeah, at Byju's, we are very, very careful, especially with this, because we experiment a lot. So before we scale, we always experiment.
Got it. But has there been a confusion ever in your mind? So say you plan to do something, there's one campaign that's going out, or there's one change that you're doing in a product, and you've been confused, maybe this is too much in terms of where we're headed. I mean, I understand that maybe you would have then done a small test and then would have.
Yeah,
that's the answer. Yeah. While I was saying it, I probably.
We don't take that plunge without playtesting it. Yes, playtesting, experimenting. Sometimes it's called playtesting, but we do that testing with parents also. So yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a broader level concept, can be applied anywhere, and I think can be applied to parents, can be applied to kids. But I think this is helpful. One more thing which is a challenge and needs to be solved is having the personalization is great. Okay, maybe I'm trying to customize my communication, but like how do you keep it consistent also is a challenge, right? So maybe because the challenges also are sometimes different on different kinds of channels. So say if an offline user is there, maybe I don't know if that's something that you've personally faced or not, but sometimes the channel in itself is so different that the personalization that you're doing on another channel might go for a toss here. So yes. How do you probably keep the level of customization consistent, and also at a broader level, the experience for a user consistent throughout these the channels of communication or touch points for the user?
Right. So that's a great question because we have the online app, right,
Yeah.
where we are using personalization to surface different learning content, adaptive learn journey, progress reports. There's also the offline model where we have mentors. So every child is allocated to a mentor, and these are the people who actually call kids on a regular basis, chat with them, guide them, right? And it's important to maintain the same consistency in what level of personalization you want to do even when you are talking to these kids, right? So the key to that is uniform communication, getting into a structure where all of us share information of the child or the data of that particular child in a consistent flow. So we have common dashboards that we look at, right? A simple example is the report that the child gets on the app is exactly same as what the mentors refer to, right? Of course, what we add to that is talking points, because obviously you can't have talking points, too much talking points on the app, right? So what we do is with the same data, with the same amount of shout outs, we have relevant talking points that the mentors have. But again, all of us are looking at the same thing and talking. So that makes sure that, we are all consistent in our approach.
Got it. Got it. So I think uh, that's fair to say that if you were having the same source of data that you're trying to share with the kid
Yes.
here or the parent, probably the communication will be consistent. But do you also do any level of, say, especially when we talk about offline, touch points, any level of training here which comes into play? That
Yes, yes,
right.
absolutely. In fact, not just training, but continuous training is very important. Like when they join, of course, there's a training, but then any feature change that we do,
Yeah.
it has to be trained, it has to be carefully communicated more than what the product will be seen by the audience, right? More than, because they are the people who are actually going to be the physical point of contact
Right.
for kids, right? So they need to know more about what the product says, more than what the app is actually talking about. So yes, continuous training is key there.
Got it. Got it. I think we've received a question as well here from Ruchira. It says, how do you determine the different variations of personalization a product should have so as to sustain personalization at scale? So I think scalability is something that also can be a challenge when we talk about personalization. And I think that's
Yes.
what Ruchira is trying to get at here. So any inputs on that? Any answers to that?
Yes, I think when you want to scale, definitely you have to have a finite set of cohorts, right? But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're not so the cohort creation itself has to have some form of bounded rationality, which means that you know you need to clearly define what are the various two or three criterias based on which you're going to create the cohort, and based on that you then start personalizing things specific to that cohort. When it comes to scalability, I think if you're looking at data, that really helps you. If you look at data in a very objective way, right? I think that itself helps you in developing scalable solutions when it comes to personalization. And especially from talking from edtech point, from our content type, the personalization that we currently have, right, is on the basis of content surfacing, right? We categorize content into different categories, and based on what kids like, we surface those particular content types to the kids, right? That is one level of personalization that itself does the magic, right? You don't have to go beyond having a video calling out a child's name to build the additional personalization aspect. That may be just a little bit overboard. So you have to also maintain the fine balance of personalization required in that particular industry.
Got it. I mean, again, it has to be tied back to the product. It can't be,
Correct.
I mean, name is definitely personalization, but essentially it's not limited to the name. That's one aspect which probably even get unnoticed, right? So
Yes.
it's more to do with exactly what the consumer
Product
actually,
about.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, tying back to the product. So
Yes.
this is helpful. I think one, like a very, I would say it's not really a very, not something maybe which audience is looking for, but still I want to ask, like, any experience wherein you did, or the team worked on any personalization, and the experience that you saw there from your the kids that were there on the platform, and in the it not in terms of the final metric which will impact the business, but in itself the experience, any story there in terms of the personalization that you did, and then you saw the impact of it on how the people or how the kids really loved it. Any story bit or
Yeah,
anecdote on that bit? Yeah.
sure. Like I mentioned, right? We have these progress reports that
Okay.
come out of huge amount of data crunching and personalizing it for each child, and we share it with with each of the kids, and then some of those kids turn out to be cousins, right? And each of them get a different kind of report, and the level of excitement that was, and we were just sending the reports one by one, right?
Mhm.
And the first one got, the second one was supposed to get in the next batch, and then immediately the parent call like, hey, my cousin has got the report and it looks fantastic, where is my child's report? I'm like, okay, you're on the next batch. So especially with kids and parents, the delight element is something that keeps motivating us. So when you give something that your child has done this, and this is specifically for your child, the parent became so excited that they couldn't even wait to receive the report, and they were like, where's my report? So yeah, those kind of things, and if it would have just been a general report of how many videos or games your child has consumed, I'm sure it wouldn't have built that kind of excitement. So yeah.
Got it, got it. Any other brand apart from say Byju's wherein you've seen really good personalization being done? Any examples that you would want to share for people to look at?
I think a lot of them. I think Mintra is a good example, right? That they're trying to do personalization with a lot of things. A simple thing is a size recommendation, right? They're just using the data of purchase that you have, building on different profiles you've tagged, and then the next time when you buy something, they recommend you, go for a size. That says a lot about the app is for you and it's thinking about you. The system knows you well. So I think that's why it has been able to be there in the area of fashion, right? So long, for so long. So yeah.
Correct. I think a lot of, in fact, digital brands are doing it really well, and I think the realization has also come now that we can't go beyond a certain level where it becomes creepy. So I think that
Yeah.
realization is also very important. I think like the questions that I had in my mind, most of the questions you've already answered. In fact, if in case there's something from the audience, please do share so that we can also ask Monica, for more inputs on that. But like before, till the time we get that, Monica, one thing which probably people would be looking for is any 2 cents from your side, like in terms of the overall conversation that we had today, or when we talk about personalization. If you have to summarize a few things for the marketers to really consider when we discuss these things, that'll be very very helpful for probably the audience to.
Sure. So one thing that I would really highlight and have not spoken about is look at personalization failures very carefully. That gives you the kind of data point that even success would not give you. For example, just an example, if I surface a certain content, right, for a particular child or a particular cohort of child, and I see nobody clicks on it, right, I should make the most of that data. Why didn't that recommendation work? So failure of personalization effort should be taken in the right spirit and immediately fed back into the model in a way that you kind of, and that keeps generating that amount of success or engagement that you're looking for. So while doing personalization, data crunching, finding the cohorts, surfacing content is one thing, learning from personalization failures is far more impactful, is what I would like to say.
Got it. Got it. I think that summarizes things very well. One of the things which I think Sonu has asked her is more to do with the specific industry, which is fintech. And I think the concern for fintech is the information that can be tracked and can be then consumed for you to personalize. So, and I think that's also true for to some level, kids as a category as well, right? You cannot have all the information being consumed and tracked. So any inputs in that? I mean, how you've probably solved a few challenges on that front, which can also probably be leveraged for a fintech platform for Sony.
Sure. So, like education, right? The first question we ask ourselves is what needs to be personalized and what doesn't need to be, right? There are certain things that you need to just do on a transactional basis. Again, I'm coming back to fintech again.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you first suffice the use case and then try to personalize if it is required. And that is very important because that decides how much data you would need to do so, and is it allowed to do so. Especially with kids also, privacy is very important. I'm surprised that in India we don't have as many I would say, regulations around it, but very soon, hopefully, it should be there. But child data privacy is a key, is a very, very important factor in countries outside India, including US. And we have also learned that, as we went to US, we slowly learned about the privacy issues, etc., and the kind of scrutiny that have. So as a company, we believe that you should not take any data that is not under the consent of the parent or the child, number one. Two, even if you have user behavior data, use anonymity there. And I think that goes out for any industry.
Correct.
For a fintech perspective, again, the focus should be to improve user experience and get that transactional thing done. And in order to improve the user experience or smoothen the user process, if you can do something with personalization, yet don't overdo things where you start looking out for the spend patterns. If the person is not interested in spend pattern or stuff like that, don't overload them with additional information. Make sure you do the transaction right.